Why weren't we pushing towards economic fusion and new materials and new methods of heat extraction and so forth? Because everybody knew fusion was 40 years away, and now it's 4 years away.
Fusion energy, probably our most advanced energy solution in the past 100 years, which involves combining atomic nuclei to form heavier elements and releasing large amounts of energy in the process. This energy solution has the potential to provide an almost limitless and clean source of power. If fusion energy could be harnessed on a large scale, it could be used to power a variety of advanced technologies, and maybe quantum 3D printing. But what will this do to the human species? After all, we were, not too long ago, given the enormous time frame the universe exists on, we were just primates, learning the basics of what our hands could do, using tools to hunt for food, create shelter, and heal our sick. What will we do with our new, almost infinite renewable energy? But you might be asking, I thought this video was about 3D printing. What does fusion energy have to do with my $200 3D printer from Amazon? Well, if you know anything about technology, you know technology grows at an extreme rapid pace, and things tend to get smaller and smaller over time. Just meditate on the device you're watching this on right now. 20, 30 years ago, it was probably 10 times the size it is now. Now, even though our fusion reactors are huge right now, imagine being able to combine fusion energy with 3D printing. Wouldn't we essentially be creating the replicator from Star Trek? With an abundant source of energy, a 3D printer could be designed to create a wide variety of objects and materials. The energy generated by fusion could be used to power the 3D printer and any other equipment needed to process and transform raw atomic materials into desired final products. If you believe that technology only gets better and better as we iterate and iterate again to improve our technology and to improve the world around us, then I have to submit an atomic 3D printer to be able to produce extremely wide variety of foods from simple meals to complex dishes. Something that can use energy to take apart atoms and put them back in any arrangement we so desire. This would be more efficient, less wasteful than the current methods of producing food that often requires large amounts of land and resources. Fusion energy combined with 3D printing technology could allow for the creation of a highly advanced and efficient replicator technology. This type of technology would solve so many of the world's problems. Imagine a future where if you need something, all you need is the equivalent amount of atoms, the fusion reactor, the 3D printer, and you can turn anything into anything else. But what would that do for us as a species? What happens when our energy is so cheap? What happens when we can replicate food for the masses? All of those struggling villages, all of those places that don't have clean drinking water, that could instantaneously create from other matter exactly what they need. Isn't it possible at that point we wouldn't need monetary systems that collapse over and over again? What would we need work for? What would we need that job we hate for? Isn't it possible that our entire civilization could be changed overnight? Would we even be able to recognize our civilization in 50, 100 years? People would still need to work. But what would they be working towards when most of the stuff they could just type into a computer and get out of a replicator? Would there be wars over materials? Would there be land leases for the mineral rights? What happens when you can take a block of junk and turn it into something that can feed 10 villages? Would that society not turn its focus onto the things that make us truly happy? That I want this thing because it will better my life. It will make me more human than I was without it. I can express my authentic self with this thing. Would we not decide to dive more deeply into our cultures to better understand the origins of how we got to where we are now? Would we not find love in paintings, in art, in theater, and the things that allowed us to express who we truly were, to be able to be fully human? We already have the technology to break apart atoms, to fuse atoms together, and we've done this in the time span of less than 100 years. We've been able to move individual atoms. We've been able to collide atoms and break them apart. We've been able to fuse atoms together. And while these technologies might take up gigantic rooms and miles-long underground passages, day by day, year by year, we're slowly mastering this technology. We're starting to master the fundamental reality. We're learning how to master the building blocks of the universe. It might take us a while to fully understand and comprehend what that means for us, but I think if you were to be a pragmatist about it, you could see all the suffering that this technology in the future could take away. You would ask yourself, what if my ancestors had this technology? How much farther, technologically and morally, would they be? Would our ancestors have to have suffered like they did for us to get to this point? What would happen to all the atrocities if everyone's base desires and needs were met? Would there have been war over farms? Would there have been nuclear explosions as shows of force? Would there have been mass starvation? Or would there have been art, photography, poems, theater, dance? Would there have been more culture for all of us to share? I like to think there would be more of those things. So while this technology might not ever come into existence, and if it does, it might take way past my lifetime, then I take solace in the fact that all the suffering up until that point was just the process of finally being able to rid ourselves the worst aspects of not just nature, but human nature.